That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we're going to try something a little bit different here. I did not prepare for this video. Instead, I'm going to be looking at my dynasty rankings that we had before the season started. And I'm going to be talking about some drastic changes that I think we're going to be seeing. I'm definitely going to take the next few days, and I'm going to try my best to update those dynasty rankings for everybody over there on Patreon. I'll guarantee you that this week, those dynasty rankings will be updated over on Patreon. It's really hard doing dynasty rankings halfway through the season because half the teams have a completely different goal than the other. I mean, obviously you have your rebuilders, you have your contenders, but yeah, I'm going to try my best to get those dynasty rankings going for y'all. So yeah, of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel only if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football or want to play Dynasty Fantasy Football. If you're just a regular fantasy football player, this ain't the place for you. I promise you that. And yeah, let's go through. Let's talk about these Dynasty rankings. Let me talk about our top 10 rankings coming into the season. We had Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor in that top tier. And then in tier 2, oh my gosh, y'all know how much hate we had for Najee Harris at running back 4. We had him over Alvin. We had him over Dalvin. I mean, we had Najee Harris at running back 4. Then Kamara, Dalvin, Gibson, Clyde EdwardsHelaire, DAndre Swift. Yes, we had DAndre Swift over running backs like Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry. And then, yeah, running back 10, we have Nick Chubb here. Those are the top 10 rankings. Let me go through. Let's talk about some of these players that are going to be going up, some of these players that are going to go down. Okay, so obviously you have to move Christian McCaffrey down as this is a player that yet again dealing with injuries. And at the same time, I mean, he's going to be going into year 3 on his second contract. I mean, going into year 3 on your second deal, that's not the best place to be in. I will say with Christian McCaffrey, while yes, this is a running back that was drafted back in 2017. So, I mean, he's been around for a very long time. He still is only 25 years old, and I think that he is going to have just the better transition to the later part in his career than you would see from another running back that possibly wins purely off athleticism, because with Christian McCaffrey, we know that he is that elite passing down running back at the same time. I'm going to assume that we are having to move Christian McCaffrey behind Jonathan Taylor and one running back in particular. I kind of tweeted this out 2 days ago. Of course, you will see the official rankings over on Patreon. I'm going to try to get them out by the time this video is out there, so y'all can just go from this video to check them out on Patreon. Najee Harris is going to be our running back 1 overall in Dynasty Fantasy Football, because if you're looking at Harris, well, I mean, I have to be the first one to admit, coming into the NFL draft, this was a player that I was saying, you know what? I actually prefer Travis Etienne. I think that Travis Etienne profiles to just be a better running back overall with every box that he checks. Is with Harris. I mean, yeah, I had some red flags popping up. The fact that he is already 23 years old at the time of the NFL draft, that is not something you like to see. I mean, that's something you're 100% trying to avoid, knowing that historical hit rates are showing that those prospects are going to hit at a lower frequency than that running back drafted in the first round at 20 or 21 years old. But with that being said, as soon as he goes in the first round to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Najee Harris becomes a player that you have to be drafting. I mean, this is someone that we had at the 103 in our Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts, only behind Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance. I think if you redrafted today, you'd probably have Najee Harris at 1 overall. And it's because while, yes, you don't love to see that he's 23 years old, I mean, a big thing is when you notice that I talk about running backs in Dynasty, I talk about these long-term outlooks on these given players. Rather than me just focusing in on their age, which is the easiest thing to do for anybody who's trying to evaluate a long-term outlook for a given player, rather I would focus in on the contract situation for that running back. Because whenever we're talking about a running back seeing the fall off, it's not necessarily their massive fall off in talent, because we can see week in and week out that even if a running back is less talented than another player, as long as they have the touches, as long as they have the situation working in their favor, they can be highly productive. I mean, just this week alone, you had Khalil Herbert. You also had, I mean, Alex Collins, of all running backs, going over 100 rushing yards. So what we really need to see is we need to see those running backs being able to have that longevity with the guaranteed money on their contract, with those guaranteed touches upcoming. That's why I get worried whenever we have a running back like Joe Mixon going into the 3rd year on his veteran deal. However, if you're looking at Joe Mixon and his age, he's actually very young. I mean, this is a running back that, yes, he was drafted in 2017. He's literally a year and a half older than Najee Harris. He's 25 years old right now. You really shouldn't be that worried about Mixon for his age. Rather, you should be worried about the contract situation with where the guaranteed money lines up, because once that guaranteed money kind of dries up, and we know that those running backs that sign those mega deals, all of a sudden their organizations will be looking at them going, do we really want to pay you $15 million this year? Or would we rather have Joe Schmo down the street come in? He can play for $2 million, and yeah, the production's going to be a little bit less. I mean, the talent level's not going to be right there, but I mean, you can always find the James Conner in free agency, pay him $1.75 million as an organization, and just kind of move on from that RB. Very similar to what you saw with Kenyon Drake this past season. So with Najee Harris, while yes, he's a little bit older of a rookie as a running back, it doesn't really necessarily impact his long-term dynasty outlook for me, because he was drafted in the first round. He does have that 5th-year option on his rookie contract. So you can essentially guarantee that you are going to have, with Najee Harris here, a running back that is coming out. And right now, he's the running back 4 in fantasy. I mean, if you're looking at a points per game standpoint, Najee Harris is the running back 3. This has been someone that has been unbelievably productive. And you're going to be looking at a guaranteed workload over the next 4 to 5 seasons of him getting 300 plus touches every single year. That is literally unheard of. You cannot find that anywhere else with a given running back, especially if we're talking about this usage that Najee Harris has had in the receiving game. And now this is something we actually outlined on our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide over there on Patreon this offseason. And that Najee Harris is actually a fantastic prospect with his passing down ability coming into the NFL. I know a lot of people want to look at Najee Harris and say that he is getting this type of target share in Pittsburgh. He is seeing, I mean, an NFL high in receptions and targets at the running back position based on the fact that Ben Roethlisberger can't throw the ball down the field. And while that may be true with Ben Roethlisberger, at the same time, Najee Harris commanded over 13% of his team's target share at Alabama. That is an incredibly high mark. We identified that you only needed an 8.5% team college target share to transition as a pass-catching running back in the NFL. Now, he crushed that. So Najee Harris, he has the talent in the receiving game. At the same time, this is not a fluke. Maybe it goes down just slightly. Maybe he isn't the #1 running back in the NFL in receptions every single season. But I don't think you should be surprised if this is a running back that is top 5 consistently with the targets that he is getting out of the backfield, as well as with this Pittsburgh situation. Yeah, they're not going to have Ben Roethlisberger there, but is that such a bad thing? I mean, I think that removing Ben Roethlisberger from this offense may make you just kind of question a little bit of what you're going to be seeing in terms of the way they distribute targets between Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. But overall, I'd imagine that this offense can't get much worse without Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Roethlisberger right now looks like he is a bottom 10 quarterback in the NFL. Now, another running back that has to move up drastically is another guy that we were higher on compared to consensus coming into the season. DAndre Swift. We had Swift ahead of Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry. I mean, with DAndre Swift here, the thesis was really simple. I mean, we've always talked about this, that DAndre Swift is that running back that profiles to be Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara. He's just the new Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara. And I know you're tired of hearing me say it by now because we've been saying it for over a year, that not only is he that pass-catching running back, not only is he going to come out, and right now he has 42 targets so far through 6 weeks this season. Obviously, that makes him incredibly appealing, and that literally the lowest mark that he has had for targets any given week this year was 5 against the Green Bay Packers in week 2. That's an incredibly high floor. But what really makes DAndre Swift different from Naheem Hines, J.D. McKissic, those just passing down running backs that, yeah, they can get up to 80 receptions in a season, is the fact that DAndre Swift is also getting used in the red zone at the same time. He has 4 touchdowns through the first 6 weeks here. Clearly, they have a goal line role planned for DAndre Swift. So even with Jamal Williams getting signed to Detroit this offseason, I mean, you clearly identified Swift as a running back that wasn't going to get every touch out of his backfield. I mean, right now he's had multiple weeks so far this season not getting to 10 carries, but it doesn't really matter for fantasy football when we're chasing high value touches rather than raw touches overall. Also, this is a very young offensive line that should continue to improve going into 2022. Also, this is an offense that you would imagine gets drastically better. Whoever they're going to bring in the NFL draft next year, we know is going to be considerably better than what you actually have in Jared Goff. This team right now is 0-6. I mean, with Jacksonville winning this past week, are they the only 0-6 roster? Yeah, they're the only team that is yet to win a football game so far this season. I mean, you have a win for both Houston and Jacksonville. So, I mean, you're not guaranteed to see the Detroit Lions to get that #1 pick overall. I mean, you have a lot of teams with only one win. I mean, you got also the Giants. You have Miami Dolphins, which is pretty surprising. The New York Jets. I mean, you also have the Texans, the Jags. So, I mean, I think that we can say at this point, though, that you have the Detroit Lions most likely with a top 5 pick in this year's next NFL draft. They also have an additional first-round pick with the Los Angeles Rams. You'd imagine that they can possibly add something to the wide receiver core there, which will boost up the overall efficiency of this offense. So yeah, DAndre Swift, I think that he is also going to be in that top tier with us. The problem is like trying to evaluate these players in a vacuum. Like if we're looking at DAndre Swift versus Jonathan Taylor, I think in a PPR format, of course you can make the argument for Swift being ahead of Taylor, but with how Taylor's situation could change going into 2022, this would be a spot that you could either see it getting better or worse for Jonathan Taylor, and that maybe this team doesn't really have the option to upgrade from Carson Wentz, knowing that they're currently 2-4. I mean, they did win this past week against the Houston Texans, so I guess maybe you can try to say that they're going to continue to try to be competitive down the stretch. They're not going to bench Carson Wentz, and that will lead to them having to give up a first-round selection in next year's NFL draft. And if that's going to be the case, I think you have a very hard time seeing this quarterback position change at all. So I think with Jonathan Taylor, of course, you're looking at Marlon Mack saying, well, it'll be nice if he gets out of this Indianapolis Colts backfield and it will just be Taylor, Nyheim Hines. Remember, Nyheim Hines signed an extension before the season started. Like, I think we have to put Taylor in the same range. But like a big thing is, I know a lot of people, whenever we came out and we said that Najee Harris is our dynasty running back 1 overall, they wanted to argue with me saying, oh, Mason, no, it's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is a much better running back. And I will say, I agree with you. Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris. I think if you had both these running backs in a vacuum, like you're playing Madden or you're just the general manager for the Indianapolis Colts and Pittsburgh comes up to you and says, hey, we'll give you Najee Harris, give us in return Jonathan Taylor. You're laughing at them. You're saying, hell no, Jonathan Taylor is a better running back for what we want to do. Jonathan Taylor is a more talented running back over. That can easily be the case. But it doesn't really matter when Jonathan Taylor isn't seeing anything close to the same level of usage that either DAndre Swift or Harris are getting in their own respective backfields. I mean, if you're looking at Jonathan Taylor right now, very impressive with what we've had so far this season. I mean, right now he is the running back 6 in points per game. This is a running back that also has scored 4 touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. That's not going to be able to keep up. So with Taylor, with him kind of splitting this backfield with a couple other running backs and with him not getting that elite target share in his own offense, I think it's a lot harder to see him maintain this level of production and come in the same range of Najee Harris or DAndre Swift. So while he may be a better running back and he's actually younger than Najee Harris at the same time, I think we have to have him behind Harris, knowing that Harris essentially has 2 extra years on his own rookie contract if you include the 5th-year option that Jonathan Taylor does not have because he was drafted in the 2nd round. I mean, I know that, we've kind of gone off on a tangent here with a couple of these top-end running backs debating Taylor, Harris, Swift. Of course, I'll be able to think about this a little bit more when we're not on the video, look at what we should be expecting with these long-term offenses and create those updated official rankings on Patreon. But I think for the time being, we're most likely going to be updating our rankings, have Najee Harris at 1. I think we may have DAndre Swift at 2. I think investing into DAndre Swift right now, like we said coming into this season, is like investing into Aaron Jones in 2018, investing into Alvin Kamara in 2018. They're the same level running back. I mean, not from a talent perspective, but the usage in their respective offenses. I think we may have Harris at 1, Swift at 2, Taylor at 3. And then beyond that, those running backs like Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, this is kind of what we discussed coming into the year. It doesn't really matter if you're getting the production for Kamara, Cook, Chubb, Zeke, Henry. Their value really can't go up that much in that, yeah, you're expecting production this season. If you get that production, fantastic. That's what you invested in for. But it's only downhill from here. So it's hard to move those running backs up that much more, even though I know a lot of people are more focused in on those names right now because they're focused in on submitting their starting lineups. They're focused in on their actual matchups this season. But if we're talking about a long-term dynasty outlook, I think a couple players that will definitely be falling down our rankings, but could be intriguing buy low candidates, Clyde EdwardsHelaire and Antonio Gibson. Those would be 2 names that I would possibly wanting to be on the lookout for, especially with Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Obviously, he has the injury right now. With the Kansas City Chiefs, you kind of saw that they were trending towards the direction of using Darrell Williams more and more anyway. So, right now, I think you could buy Clyde EdwardsHelaire at an all-time low. And Clyde EdwardsHelaire is the perfect example of a running back that, yeah, he's not even close to being in the same tier of a talent that maybe you even have with Javonte Williams. I think at this point you could say Javonte Williams is definitely a much better running back than Clyde EdwardsHelaire. But with Clyde EdwardsHelaire having that rookie contract tied to the Kansas City Chiefs, where he also has that fifth-year option, I mean, maybe that fifth-year option is not going to get picked up in the case of CEH, but still, he's attached to that rookie contract. He has 2 more years at the minimum guaranteed to that Kansas City offense. He was drafted at 21 years old at the same time last year. And with this Chiefs team, they kind of pushed all their resources into the offensive line this season. I mean, they really don't have that many draft picks to be playing around with over the next few years. So, I mean, I think that you could see this team really tied up with the money that they have on the books and also the fact that they don't have that many draft picks going forward, or maybe they want to move on from Clyde EdwardsHelaire. They can't necessarily do so, however, after drafting him in the first round a year ago. So CEH definitely going to be falling down our rankings just slightly. He will be an intriguing buy low player. And another player that I want to bring up, talking about guys that are on their rookie contracts, J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne. I mean, right now we have Travis Etienne ranked ahead of James Robinson in our Dynasty rankings. I think that while I know 100% of the people watching this video are going to say that is ridiculous just because the mindset that everybody is in right now, I still probably prefer having Travis Etienne. And the thing is, if you were asked right now, Mason, do you want Travis Etienne, Miles Sanders? I'm taking Travis Etienne. Mason, do you want Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs? I'm taking Travis Etienne. I'm taking the running back that was just drafted in the first round. His injury isn't as devastating in the long term as what you may have with someone like Cam Akers here. So in the case of Travis Etienne, this is a running back that I think could also be moving up our rankings just slightly, him and J.K. Dobbins, not based on anything they've done this season, obviously, but based on the idea that Jacobs, Sanders, I mean, even you could possibly throw in Mixon, like these running backs ahead of them should be moving down just based on what they've seen. So there are a couple changes I want to be making. We're definitely going to be moving Najee Harris up, moving DAndre Swift up, keeping Jonathan Taylor already where he was. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, we already had ranked as the 3rd running back in Dynasty. Some of these veteran players that aren't producing to the level that you needed them to this season, 100% they're going to be falling down rankings. Like Miles Sanders, I know he was drafted in 2019, technically still on that rookie contract, but I'd imagine at this point in his NFL career that with Miles Sanders, it's very hard to go through and pinpoint exactly what his second contract is going to be looking like. He'll have 1 year left in 2022 on his rookie deal. But beyond that, he's been a running back that mainly has just been disappointing in Philadelphia. I have to admit, I was not expecting this role from Kenneth Gainwell whatsoever coming into the season. So I think you're probably going to have to bump down Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders is going to be almost in a similar range of someone that you have like Zach Moss. Zach Moss, we were higher than compared to consensus coming into the year because talk about that rookie contract. I know we were tired of saying it. I know you were tired of hearing it. But being on your rookie deal at the running back position in Dynasty Fantasy Football means everything. And Zach Moss has clearly shown that he is the lead running back for Buffalo here in an offense that does want to come out here and I don't want to say feature Zach Moss, but at least give him the majority of the touches in this backfield. So I think we're probably going to be moving Zach Moss up at the same time. Trey Sermon plummets down. There are going to be a lot of fun changes that we are making. Of course, if you have any opinions on players that you think should be drastically moving up or down these running back dynasty rankings, please let me know. I don't think we're really going to be touching Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Austin Eckler that much because nothing's really changed. I mean, throw Aaron Jones into this list as well, where you invested into them knowing that they had produced this year. If they didn't produce, then we were going to be panicking. But I mean, it's been fine until now. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, like I said, we're going to be updating those rankings on Patreon ASAP. You can find that link in the description of this video. And please go down there to the comment section. Let me know what you are thinking with some of these running backs and how your rankings would be looking. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Really hope you have a great day. And I really hope I see y'all with the video. Maybe we'll go another one this week. Maybe we'll talk about wide receivers as well in a video this week if we can get the time. And yeah, that's all I got. Have a great day.